Hello everyone and welcome back to another video and another day in paradise, aka a cold, overcast winter day here in the Midlands. So as we all know by now, the UK winter is pretty grim, cold, wet, miserable at times, but it's also the time where the majority of the hard work gets done, clocking up those base miles, and usually if you can get out in the winter you set yourself up pretty well for the rest of the year. I'd like to think I've had a fair share of experience riding out in these testing conditions. So in today's video I thought I'd share some of the most important things I've learned along the way to survive the winter out here on the roads. So let's start things off with probably the most important point of surviving the winter is making sure you've got good kit. There's probably 3 points to focus on in my opinion, and that is extremities, core and layering. First things first, extremities, making sure you've got a good set of gloves, good set of overshoes and something warm on your head, so that whether that be a skull cap, aero helmet, winter cap, something like that, and that's going to save you from potentially an early end to your ride. And then you've got core and layering. They kind of come hand in hand really, because you'll need the layers to keep your core warm. But yeah, for example today I've got 3 layers on. Good base layer is always super important, and then a middle layer, and then an outer shell, usually something windproof or waterproof in the winter. So there's just a few important things to bear in mind when making your kit choices for riding outside at this time of year. Another thing to add to that though, if you haven't already got yourself some good winter kit, usually around February, March, April, most brands tend to have some really good deals. So be able to grab yourself some bargains, prepare for next year, or maybe if the UK summer doesn't really come until June, you'll be able to use some of that good warm kit out in the spring and be prepared for next year too. Thankfully for me, I've already got some pretty nice winter gear. This Pertex fabric is one of my favourite bits of kit that I've been using through the winter from Calpe. Hence why I'm out riding in all conditions. You see me out in snow, ice, wind, rain, and yeah, you need good kit to do that. So yeah, very grateful to have the support of Calpe and Spats for keeping my hands and feet dry. So one of the biggest things about surviving the winter is having all the tools and equipment to fix any issues you might have out here in the middle of nowhere when it's freezing cold. So I'm going to quickly run you through what I've got in my saddlebag and in my pockets to make sure I can fix my bike in any scenario. The key things I've got in my saddlebag, I've got a spare tube, although I am running tubeless. So hopefully if I do get any nicks in my tyre, the tubeless sealant should fix that. Got a canister in here, a nice little screw top. Yeah, I've got a spare valve in there as well. Got some tyre levers. And I think that's about it. That is what's in my saddlebag. So tube, tyre levers, spare valve, canister. I've actually got some little latex gloves in there in case it's a super messy job. And then I've also got a quick link in here too, just in case I need one for my chain. In addition to that though, I've also got my little phone case here with a little pump, just in case the canister doesn't work. I actually tend to use the pump in most scenarios, to be honest, because I don't like wasting a CO2 canister if I can help it. They're more useful for in races and stuff like that. And then I've got my little Topeak multi-tool, and that literally does everything I could ever want. So this has pretty much got every single Allen key or Torx key I can need. I've also got some tubeless plugs embedded in there in a real worst case scenario where I split the tyre or something like that. And yeah, that pretty much covers it, to be honest. I wouldn't have thought there's anything else you would need, but if I've missed something, then let me know. This was a hypothetical situation. Hopefully I don't get further into this ride and I have to use any of this because, to be honest, this rarely comes off the back of my saddle. I'm running some pretty chunky Pirelli 32 P0s, and they have been spot on throughout the winter. Another quick thing to add actually as I set off is, if you do have all those tools, make sure you know how to use them before you're stuck in a gateway on the side of the road trying to figure out how it works, because I've seen many a rider do that. Yeah, really important to know how everything works in your living room before you're doing it out on the side of the road. So coming up to about 2 hours into my ride now, and all this talking has got me pretty hungry. So one thing you should never neglect, but even more so in the winter, is eating and fueling on the bike. In the winter, you're burning even more calories. Your body's trying to keep you warm as well as power your legs. So yeah, the importance of eating is potentially even more than when you're riding in the summer. So like I say, I'm almost 2 hours in now, and I'm on to my second bar. Some people like solids, some people like gels. Myself, I like to blend a little bit of both. So got these Cliff bars, which I've been munching away on, which are about 38 grams of carbs in each. So I tend to have half of one of them every 20 minutes. And then I've also got my blocks as well, which I just have sporadically throughout the ride. And they keep me nice and fueled, as well as hydration. Hydration is very overlooked during the winter, because obviously when it's cold, you don't feel thirsty. But the importance of drinking is still there, especially when you're sweating under all those layers. So that's a really crucial thing to keep on top of, not only during the winter but throughout the year, on and off the bike. It's something I've been guilty of in the past when trying to lose weight pre-race season, and to be honest, all it does is just make the quality of your training shit, end up bonking and suffering your way home. So yeah, make sure to stay on top of your nutrition. You're basically powering the engine with whatever you put in your body, so really important to keep yourself fueled up and yeah, keeping those legs turning. So 3 hours in now, about half an hour to go to round off the ride. But time to get into my final couple of tips. Both myself and my bike are pretty much caked in mud by this point. Just pretty typical for a ride in these conditions. I mean, you've seen the state of the roads here today. Yeah, looking after your bike and bike maintenance is another really important thing to think about during the winter. So obviously there's numerous benefits to looking after your bike throughout the winter, not least helping your bike run a little bit smoother, and obviously that feels nicer to ride as well. But also you're probably going to prolong the life of all your components that you've got on your bike. If you look after them, then you're going to have to replace them less, and in the long run saving yourself some money too. So a couple of things that I do to look after my bike throughout the winter: I try and clean it at least 2 or 3 times a week. Sometimes I won't need to wash the whole bike, but I always give my drivetrain a little once over, so just clean the chain, and sporadically I do wax my chain as well, but in weather like this it doesn't always tend to last that long. Another thing I do, and I'm a big advocate for this as well as being supported by G-Technic, but I coat my bike with a ceramic coating, and that extra layer of protection from the ceramic coating keeps all the major dirt and grime off your frame set, prolonging that life a little bit more and making it super easy to clean as well when you get home. And you can find out a little bit more about that on a recent reel I did on Instagram, which is right here. And if you want to get your hands on one of those ultimate bike care bundles, then subscribe to the channel, because I'll be giving away one of those packages worth over £100 to one of you guys if you subscribe to the channel. Anyway, talking of cleaning my bike, that's probably what I'm going to do as soon as I get home. And yeah, I'm going to crack on with it now, because this weather's pretty pants and I've only got about half an hour to do. So let's get on with it, and then I'll chat to you when I'm back in the warm at home. So there we go, back home, warm and dry now. Quick shower, washed the bike, had some lunch, and I thought of another little thing that you might want to check throughout the winter, and I've spotted one here, is just giving your tyres a little bit of a check over. So usually with all the crap on the roads, you might get a couple of nicks in there from glass, dirt, grime, whatever, but it's always good to have a good check over your tyres once it's nice and clean. Another couple of things you want to keep an eye on as well is obviously the wear on your brake pads, wear on your chain, cassette, everything else like that. It's always good to just keep on top of those things and obviously avoid, you know, being caught out at the side of the road and having to fix it. On a cold, wet, rainy day, you want to get out there and enjoy your ride, not be stopping on the side of the road and fixing problems with your bike. So there we go, they're my winter survival tips for you. Another few things to keep in mind are to head out with a group, because that always kind of motivates you a little bit more. You've got a meeting time in the morning. So getting out the door is always the worst part. Once you're outside, you're just gonna embrace it and crack on with the ride. And winter miles make summer smiles, so if you're getting out there and getting the miles in this rough weather, then you're gonna have a great time throughout the summer and smashing all your mates. So yeah, they're my winter survival tips. And of course, if the weather takes a real turn for the worst, you can always pack up a bike and head to Spain. Sometimes the best way to survive the winter is to book a getaway. Luckily enough, I'm off to Spain to do some training for a week in Calpe, and I'm really looking forward to some riding in the sun. And I'll be bringing you guys along for the ride, so expect big miles, big climbs, and gorgeous scenery out there in Spain. And who knows, I might even bump into some pros while I'm out there. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in Spain on the next video. Ciao.